Your mushrooms are so meaty. I'm thinking you're not going to miss the meatiness. I don't need protein.
Coming in. So not only do I have a 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Winston Gold is a junior mining company that focuses on high-grade, low-cost mining opportunities. So with me to explain a little bit more about this is CEO Murray Nye and also Joe Caraba, the executive chairman of Winston Gold. So great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So Murray, let's start with you. What is the history of your involvement in this project and in the gold industry?
Well, it goes back to 2005. Gold hadn't moved probably in 30 years. It was priced around $400. I had a very good friend of mine in the mining business. I thought maybe it's a good opportunity to look at gold projects right now because of the printing of currencies and the financial uncertainty in the world. Even at that time, that was 2005. It's gotten a lot worse since then, but I thought there was an opportunity there, and I asked this gentleman, Mike Guns here, if he would help us find a gold project, which we did in 2005, and put another similar situation to this into production back at that time. In 2010, we had it in production at the rate of 400 tons a day at 0.4 ounces per ton, producing roughly 160 ounces of gold a day. We came back in 2014 and acquired this project. We leased the property from the owner, and we have a geologist by the name of Ben Porterfield. I call Ben like the Sherlock Holmes of geology. He seems to find data and information that very few people have access to. He's got access to old archives and universities. So he found out there was a good history on this property going back to the turn of the last century, about 1890. And it was a very high-grade gold mine that they mined consecutively for about a distance of 2,400 feet. And at that time, it was one of the longest veins in the world. And there were 700 and some odd drill holes into this done between 1985 and 95. So there was a lot of valuable data that we acquired along with the project chain. And so that's how we got involved. And, with Joe's help, we've brought this project on stream. We're very close to putting it into production.
Yes, and gold is certainly getting a lot of interest these days with all the Fed spending and uncertainty going on in the world. So Joe, what about you? What's your history with gold and with this project in particular?
Well, I've been in the industry my entire working life. I'm a geologist with an MBA and worked for a number of very good companies from coal to gold all the way through. I was on the Newmont board for 9 years, and I ran chaired the sustainability and operations and environmental committee. So had a very good knowledge and a lot of good people around the Newmont management team to really get me into the gold industry from there. So I retired from the board last July after the conclusion of the Goldcorp merger, and really wanted to focus on the junior gold space. I think there's some real synergies that can be added there in the industry and bring it from the drill bit to production, which, as you know, we're about to do, and that's pretty uncommon for a junior mining company. So I found it a very exciting opportunity.
So Murray, let's talk about gold and just kind of the macro. Like I mentioned, it's getting a lot of attention. The world seems scarier and more uncertain than it ever has in my lifetime, even during 9/11. I mean, and plus all this government spending that's going on. So what's your opinion of the global economic market?
Well, I think it's a mess. I think it's obvious that it's a mess, and I just don't know how they're going to get out of it. Right now they're trying to spend their way out of it, and then you've got a lot of uncertainty in the world because of COVID and all the jobs at risk. I know in our country, in Canada, they've just put a lot of enforcement measures in to prevent people from moving around. But That being said, gold historically has always been a currency, and it's always been a store of value. So it's very portable. It's easy to maintain. There's a liquid market for it all the time. So I remember watching an interview with Ray Dalio back about a year ago, and he was saying cash is trash, and this was even before COVID or any of this other stuff was happening. And he wasn't a big gold bug per se, but he certainly thought it was worth looking at as far as maybe putting 10% of your portfolio into gold. But historically, it's always been a store of value and a currency. So I think it's a good hedge against inflation. And I'm old enough to remember, you aren't, Jane, but I remember the hyperinflation back in 1979-80, where interest rates went to 20%. And this is what the world is poised for. Again, I believe. I don't know when it's going to happen, but you're going to have inflation at some point.
Okay, and then Murray, final question for you. I mean, there was a recent press release that said that you intersected more high-grade gold in the parallel line. Explain what that means for non-gold.
Okay. Yeah. I will. Happy to, Jane. It's the parallel vein, actually. Okay.
Okay.
The gold is hosted in what are called veins, and the vein is a different form of it's a different geological setting than the host rock. The veins contain the gold, and we're currently developing the parallel vein on the level we're on now. And then what happened was with these last two drill holes is we've intersected some much higher grade than we're on the level we're on right now. Like the level we're on right now is running about a 0.3 ounces per ton. The last drill intercept was 1.5 ounces per ton over 5 feet. So that's a significant increase in grade, like 5 times the grade that we're on. So what that means is that we can produce a lot more ounces on that level. We also have it's not too far away from where we are now. It's about 80 feet in front of us and roughly 40 or 50 feet below us. So it's not going to be that long to get to it. Also, there's another drill hole, maybe about 80 feet lower than that intercepted some similar grade, about 0.6 ounces per ton. And it's 300 feet ahead of the other one. So there's some good strike length to that. And there's some very high grade material right below our feet, if you like, that we can get to mining in the not too distant future.
Okay. Well, thank you, Murray and Joe, for explaining gold and Winston Gold, and I think could be a very interesting thing to watch over the next few years. So, good luck.
Thanks, Jane, to you and your audience. We appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. Fetch.ai is a Cambridge-based artificial intelligence lab, and it is building an open source network to enable autonomous software agents to perform useful economic work on behalf of individuals and businesses and organizations. So Humayun Sheikh is with me, the founder and CEO of Fetch.ai, and great to see you again. Always hearing about what you're doing, because it sounds like cutting edge of the future. So if you could give me an update, what's the latest with Fetch.ai?
The latest is that we are starting to open up now trials. We are actually putting out the technology in the real world, and we're trying to start doing trials in different verticals, mobility. We're looking at smart infrastructure. We're looking at connecting different components of, for example, ride-hailing and supply chain. So we're deploying these solutions now. So we are coming to a point where we're bringing the technology from the lab out onto the real world.
Okay, and I remember the last time we talked, you were talking about parking in particular, and how you were using data and artificial intelligence to help people find parking places, to help cities maximize spaces, and I mean, it was really fascinating. It was a much more efficient use of that than what we're currently seeing.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, based on our last video, we got a lot of interest from people who were trying to understand really what is it that, and how is it different to the world that is today. So what I'd like to do is take a little bit of time to just lay out the architecture for you, so that people can understand more how our technology actually enables. It's an enabler. It's an enabling technology which can enable you to bring agent-based systems into the world, and you can deploy it without actually trying to build the architecture, the infrastructure of it. It's like saying, well, how do you deploy a website without having internet? So, it's the kind of the internet bit, which is what we're trying to build for multi-agent systems. So if you think about, you want to give autonomy to different devices so they can actually feed you data, they can actually transact with you, they can connect to you. That's all great, but how do you do it? Where do you connect them together? And the problem is that that doesn't exist, and because it doesn't exist, somebody has to build it, and Fetch is building that. So what that enables you to do is to deploy different use cases, different businesses, different commercial applications in a completely different way, which is more based on the agent. And what that does is it improves the efficiency because you're not reliant on these monolithic solutions. What you're doing is you're actually granularizing completely the service, the data, the connectivity. And what that does is it enables you to connect many to many. And that's really what the whole thing is about.
So we talked about parking, but you're also doing some work with hotels or hospitality industry. How does that work?
Yes, it's very much you have to look at it. What is it that the architecture brings, and then you'll see there's many use cases for this technology. So if you look at parking, what we do in parking is you have a parking spot. The parking spot connects with your car and actually gives you a rate, and you negotiate. You book the parking spot. You take the intermediary from the middle, and by intermediary I don't mean just the business. I mean the technology, which is there's this monolithic technology sitting in the middle, which kind of finds all these things and connects you with all these things. What we're doing is we're saying, okay, you could give autonomy to both sides. So in case of hospitality, for example, if you have hotels who have agents who can actually book and advertise themselves, the consumer can actually connect with them using their agents. You don't need a middle aggregator, somebody in the middle, to actually make that connection. The problem is you can't do that unless you're able to find each other. And so, it's like you need that kind of Google type of thing if you want to find websites.
Yeah.
So we're doing the role of like a Google in the middle to connect the agents together.
Okay, very interesting. And then, so what other applications, or how are you bringing this to market? I know you're testing it, but then what is after that?
Yeah, so the core problems we want to solve is smart infrastructure, because smart infrastructure involves quite a wide range of applications. So with smart infrastructure, you can communicate with the roads, which can help the autonomous driving.
Okay, and then the collective learning product, what is that?
So if you think about agents doing transactions together, and if you think about let's take an example, for example, on the parking side as well. You have multiple parking places, and they are all communicating with each other, and they're building these trends, and these trends are currently residing with the business who owns the parking. But what you are now enabling them to do is you're enabling different parking places to actually build a machine learning model between themselves, so they can make much better predictions for the agent. So because the agent needs to have intelligence, they need to have knowledge, they need to have predictions, and the models which exist, the machine learning models which exist, they are very based on a monolithic kind of business approach or a technology approach. You can't actually, just use a machine learning model to provide to the agents and actually get a response from the agents. You need to build those models in a collective manner, so the participants or the stakeholders in this whole ecosystem can actually build a model, and the agents can actually use the model to do transactions more efficiently and more intelligently.
Okay, always interesting when we talk mine. It's great to get an update. So look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Zynecoin is the first decentralized ledger to focus and support on African innovators and entrepreneurs. And with me is the CEO of Zynecoin, Karim Ben Abdelkadir, to explain Zynecoin to us. So welcome, Karim.
Thank you.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Ben Abdelkadir Karim, Chief Executive Officer of the Vector blockchain Zynecoin and the Retoken project.
And how will the blockchain serve development in Africa?
There are more opportunities to serve African development. For instance, one, tokenization. It's a new solution for the African entrepreneurs to have access to fundraising. Two, smart contract. It allows to automate and secure functions that previously were assigned to trust intermediaries, such as accounting, insurance, and real estate. Three, DApp, or decentralized application, is an application that runs on decentralized network. It thus makes possible direct peer-to-peer interactions between users. So this will increase business opportunities in the digital field.
Okay, is Wethio supported by a coin?
Yes, of course, the Zynecoin. We spell it Z-Y-N-E. That's the Wethio's blockchain coin. At the moment, Zynecoin is listed on bbox.com and probit.com platforms.
And do you have upcoming projects on Wethio?
Yes, we started the Zero project. The utility value of this token will allow the construction of an eco-village in Africa, self-sufficient in food, water, and energy. About the technological aspect, we have the ambition to send Africa into orbit through a space program of orbital satellites in order to assist African governments into managing territories without internet coverage. We are actually at the second round of the ICO before being listed on the market around April 21st. To sum up, for people who are interested into having more information about the Zero project, here is our website, www.zyrri.io.
Okay, and I take it you are confident about the project. Why is that?
Yes, of course. We are totally in phase with the major developments of our time. On one hand, the blockchain breakthrough, which will revolutionize the social and economic interactions between humans. On the other hand, the African continent, which represents an extraordinary growth driver. It is for these reasons that Zynecoin and Ziri have a bright future ahead of them.
Thank you so much, Kareem, for joining us and explaining that. I think Africa is getting a lot of attention. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And salam alaikum.
GreenBox is a fintech company that helps people leverage their business financials through blockchain technology. So with me to explain more about exactly how this works is Ben Aurus, the chairman of the company. So Ben, great to see you and hear more about GreenBox. Do you want to just start with kind of telling me what makes you stand out versus a lot of the other competitors these days?
Yeah, so GreenBox is the only payment infrastructure company that utilizes 100% blockchain ledger technology for payments. We continuously work on technology upgrades and release new generations of our technology on a regular basis. Lastly, our approach is holistic. We develop the operating system and the applications on top of that. And we own all of the intellectual properties for the technology that is deployed in our ecosystem.
Okay, and then what drew you to GreenBox in particular? Because there is a lot of fintech out there, a lot of it's very exciting technology, and it certainly seems like the future, but what was GreenBox especially drew you to that company?
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm the co-founder of this company. And through a series of smart and lucky events, GreenBox became the only company that has both the application and the infrastructure for blockchain ledger in the payment space. We started this company about 4 years ago, released our first commercial platform in the first quarter of 2019. The second generation became available in April of this year, and we're looking forward to releasing our third generation probably by the end of this year, beginning next year.
Okay, and then the blockchain technology is what's underlying it, right? And I know, a lot of people can't quite understand blockchain. I mean, do we need to use fintech, or is this just, it's kind of, is that like we don't need to understand code to use the internet, or do we need to? What do you think?
I get this question quite a bit. So over the different interviews, I've developed this analogy that may explain to people why use blockchain ledger for payments to begin with. So let's say you and I had a meeting, and as you come to the meeting, you drive your newly restored Porsche 356 to the valet parking, and I see this car as a Porsche enthusiast myself, and I would like to buy it. So I offer you $85,000, and you accept. So far, traditional legacy payment processing. Here's where it deviates from that. So you give the key to the car to the valet. The valet checks your provenance, meaning the title, the insurance, and your authorization to sell the car. I give the valet a key to a safety deposit box that has $85,000, and the valet checks my provenance, that the money is there, that I have authorization to transact on it, etc. And here's the kicker. The valet gives me your key and gives you my key. We're both satisfied. Then the valet records this agreement in his little black book, and the transaction is satisfied. But notice that the money didn't move, and the car didn't move, and yet the transaction is satisfied. This is the kicker of blockchain, moving the provenance or the control of the asset rather than the asset itself. It creates an environment that is far more stable, far faster, secured, private, and that settles instantly. And on top of that, it has no limit to bandwidth, right? We can do a transaction like this at any amount over any physical distance. It's all virtual.
So earlier this year, you launched a second generation technology. Can you explain that platform and how it fits into the business model?
Yes. So as you stated, the Generation 2 was released earlier this year in about April. And it added a few strong new features to our ecosystem, including crypto and forex handling. This enabled the globalization for GreenBox with currently Europe focused. And we, as a result, onboarded very sizable clients with transactional volumes in Europe doubling every month since we launched it. Generation 2 also allowed integration with the newly acquired licensed money service business company in Canada. Generation 3, planned for a release towards the end of the year or beginning next year, offers yet additional new capabilities. And I'm very excited to discuss those. These new capabilities add the stablecoin ecosystem, automated blockchain provenance for regulated onboarding, banking infrastructure, payment facility management, and increased capacity and speed. And we already have significant volume commitments for that release. So we're very much looking forward to that generation.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like you've got a very kind of concrete plan going forward. So thank you so much, Ben, for joining us. It's great to hear about GreenBox, and best of luck.
Thank you for your time, Jane.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back. Aurus is a gold-backed token which promises to bring a convenient and liquid form of gold. So with me is the managing director and CEO Guido Fenstein of Aurus. So welcome, Guido. It's great to talk to you today.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for having me on the show.
So let's start with an overview of what Aurus is doing.
Of course, well, Aurus Technologies is a UK company with offices also in Amsterdam and in London. And we are a software company that provides tokenization as a service for the gold industry, for the commodity industry. And our current first product is an autonomous ecosystem that enables traditional gold market players to tokenize their gold. Each Aurus Gold token that they generate is backed by actually physically 1 gram of redeemable physical gold in vaults all over the world.
How does the ecosystem work then, the Aurus ecosystem?
Well, the ecosystem is something very unique, and it lies at the heart of Aurus, because To be honest, there's nothing special about a gold-backed token or something, but ours creates something different that bridges the gap between the traditional gold market and crypto world, and more importantly, access to the gold market that now can be achieved without the need for a broker. And this method, of course, lowers the barrier of entry for the public to invest in gold. So by digitally representing the traditional gold market, ours is the first project that created a self-sustaining ecosystem made up of gold providers, vaults, and distributors that work together to produce a semi-decentralized gold-backed currency. So these AWG tokens, they are sold at just a fraction above the gold price. And our approaches are therefore super different than other gold-backed projects, because most gold-backed tokens out there have a centralized minting process. What I mean with that at some point they will hold the gold by themselves. Because we work with multiple locations, multiple providers and traders, we not only give them the best price that can obtain, but you're not limited to one location or one provider. Hence the highest form of security and global liquidity. The other thing I want to point out, because our ecosystem exists alongside our company Aurus Technologies, the ecosystem can actually outlive the company, and the gold-backed token will survive on as an asset, just as a gold bar would. And this is a unique approach to tokenization.
So what kind of problems does it solve? And then if I would be an investor, how do I know for sure that there is gold backing it up?
First of all, each Aurus gold token is traceable to the gold bar it was minted from, and also to its specific vault, for instance, in Singapore or Dubai or Zurich. And if you look at the use cases of a gold-backed token, there's a strong case in affordable, frictionless gold accumulation, for instance, or as a backup of a reserve currency for the normal man. If you look in Europe at gold accumulation, younger demographics also want to have access to investment-grade gold. They can do that via our simple app on a monthly basis and still have a network of worldwide global liquidity. So demographics is definitely important. If you look in other use cases, for instance, remittance and cross-border payments, we offer a super competitive pricing of 0.15% for a transaction compared to other established cross-border remittance services. So even going further to bigger investors, we can create hybrid ETFs, like, for instance, existing also from silver and platinum, where you can don't need the access to an exchange anymore. So there are multiple use cases for our ecosystem where other entities can also build products on.
Well, thank you so much. Best of luck, and hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you so much, Jane. Same here. Thank you.
Their reputation, their insight, your advantage.
We don't just cover financial news, we anticipate it.
Barron's Roundtable, Fridays, only on Fox Business.